Now, there's a pool in the river at Cromdale known as Paul Nancruvan, which was haunted by the much feared Echuske, the water kelpie, a terrifying beast from the spirit world in the shape of a horse, and it preyed on lambs and calves and men and women and children. At certain times of the year, you could see it grazing in the evening sunshine among the cattle on the river bank, and to look at it, sleek and powerful, black and glossy, grazing peacefully, you would never think of the harm that it could do. Invitingly, it had a bridle and a saddle, all tooled with silver and studded with precious stones, and a saddlecloth of the deepest, lushest crimson, edged with gold. And it seemed the picture of innocence. But if a person got too close, the look in the horse's eye was enough to send such a tremor of fear through them that they'd be rooted to the spot, paralysed. Then the magnificent beast would come up to the person, and the fierce look in its eye would change to a mild, friendly one. It would nuzzle against the person, and the fear would dissipate, leaving them free to move once more. Of course, with this freedom, they would see the saddle with its silver stirrups dangling down and leap onto the creature's back. And then the horse would spring forward as if released from a slingshot and plunge into the pool at Paul Nancruvan. You might see the horse again if you were really unlucky, but that was the last you would ever see of that person. Because so few folk lived to tell the tale if they encountered the Kelpie, there were differing stories of what it looked like. Some said it was a horse. Some said it was half horse and half bull and huge. Others said no, it was about the size of a calf, but with 2 rows of razor-sharp teeth. Most were agreed that it was black, but there were also stories of a white water kelpie, which behaved in all other respects like the black one. Even up into modern times, some say the kelpie still goes about its grim work. As recently as 1933, Granton and Spey was shocked by the drowning of 2 young brothers, Joseph and Alexander Silver. No one could account for the circumstances surrounding the drowning, but some of the older folk would simply shake their heads when the topic came up, but keep their suspicions close to their chest. It's a fact, though, that all of the children of the town were made to look at the coffins of the 2 boys as a dire warning to stay away from the deep pools and dark undercurrents of the river. Now, one way of getting the better of the water kelpie was to somehow get its bridle off it. They say that one of the young Stuarts of Kincardine once managed to mount the Echuske, but found that when he touched the reins with his right hand, he was stuck fast to them, almost as if the skin of his fingers grew round them. The kelpie was galloping back into Loch Petulish, and it looked like the young man was doomed. But he got hold of his ski-and-do in his left hand and sliced off his own fingers and the bridle, and so avoided becoming yet another hopeless victim of the Kelpie. There was a man in Strathspey who people knew as Willox the Wizard, and this man had in his possession a bridle that had come down to him from his great-grandfather, a MacGregor. Now this MacGregor knew something of the black arts. He had skill with the black arts, which gave him some power over the spirit world. And he often communed with the spirit world on walks over the moors and through the woods. And one evening he was walking by the shores of Loch Endorb. The night was calm, but it was hot, and the air was thick, and the sun was setting in a blood-red blaze, and MacGregor felt that something was going to happen that night, and he wanted to be around to see it. As he was gazing out over the loch, a great spout of water erupted, and huge waves came crashing down on the shore. But MacGregor held his nerve, and as he looked into the heart of the whirling water, he saw emerging a great black horse, which made its way to the shore. It was a magnificent beast, many hands high, with great burning eyes and flames coming from his nostrils. It reared up and then pawed the ground with an ear-shattering shriek. Now MacGregor knew what this was. It was none other than the water kelpie. And seeing his chance, he rushed at the kelpie and grabbed its bridle with one hand, and flashing his ski-and-do with the other, cut the bridle from off the kelpie's head. No sooner had he done that than the kelpie was transformed into a mighty man with a great black head of hair, a big black beard, and the same flashing eyes. "Give me back my bridle, you feeble mortal man," it said. "No chance," said MacGregor. The man towered over him, threatening, but MacGregor stood his ground. He said, "I won it. You lost it. It's mine to keep." "If that's so," said the spirit, "then you and it will never enter your house together." And with that, MacGregor turned and ran, racing for home as fast as his legs could carry him, with the spirit at his back. It was running like a clumsy big man, and not like the horse that it was. MacGregor, on the other hand, his powers, maybe enhanced by the bridle, seemed to flow over the ground and through the woods. For all his gracelessness, the spirit's strides were long, and it was all that MacGregor could do to keep ahead of him. At last they came to MacGregor's house, where the door stood open, and the spirit's words that MacGregor and the bridle would never cross the threshold at the same time rang in MacGregor's mind. But he spied his wife at an open window, and he called to her, "Catch this!" and threw the bridle to her. She caught it, and the kelpie knew then that he had been outwitted. With a blood-curdling shriek, he seemed to dissolve into the air, and the bridle stayed in the MacGregor family's possession from that time on. So that's just some of Strathspey's stories. Curras and kelpies, muskets and mayhem, buried treasure and battles, and wizards of the black arts. There are, of course, many more stories to tell, Goodbye.